Hey everybody, welcome back to Mary Bird's Backyard Garden. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Mary.
And we are back at you and back home.
We are home.
No more traveling. No, not this week at least.
Not this week. We're happy to be home.
We are happy to be home. It was a fun trip.
Oh, we had a lovely visit.
Very
yes,
nice
we did.
trip. Very nice trip. We got to see family and plants and
I mean, what more can you ask for?
I mean, you can't ask for much.
You have to see plants, animals, and family.
You do. And we actually did last week's on the road, and it worked. I think it worked.
I had that listed in my What's New, and I'm so proud of you. You did a great job. It was very fun, and it worked very smoothly. I'm quite excited about the process.
Well, let's jump into that then. Let's go ahead and jump into what's new in the garden this week, Mary.
Well, how did you do that? I must have taken quite a bit of learning, processing.
You know, I practiced,
research.
And we tried when we traveled to Europe last year. We tried to do it. It didn't work out, but it worked out this time. I had some different hardware and. Made sure I tested it before we left, and we were able to do it. We had some portable hardware that we took with us, so we didn't have to take all of our big stuff. And I think it worked out pretty well.
I'm very proud of you.
We did good.
You did.
As a team, we're a team. There's no I in team, Mary.
No, but you're my IT guy.
I know.
And I celebrate that.
Yeah, we did. No, it was good. We actually knocked that out in a... late at night in a bedroom. We did it. That was kind of funny.
All cozied up.
We were, but we knocked her out. All right, what else you got?
Well, I want to apologize if my voice comes across a little funky. You're traveling, you're going to pick up something along the way, and we are on the mend. And but we'll get through it.
Yeah,
that's the way it is.
I think there's definitely stuff going around. I think a lot of people have had something, so, including us.
It seems to be very light, which I'm so thankful for.
Good. Well, I know that when we were driving back, you saw something. You were giving me a little lesson in some rice that we saw. We saw rice fields, and you were lessoning me.
I was learning you.
You were learning me.
Yeah, rice is actually a really important crop for sort of the southeast coastal Texas and on into Louisiana. It's gotten to be a very big crop, very big agricultural product. I don't really know a lot about it, but as we were driving along the highway, we could see these distinctly marked off areas that had standing water in it.
Right.
And we were talking about it, and I was saying, oh, well, those are the rice paddies. Yeah,
no, and the other thing we saw the ones with water, and then we saw the ones that they like formed, right? They didn't have any water in them yet.
Maybe you noticed that the rice had the head or the tiller on it?
No, these were just totally like plow. They just
like
created,
they're getting ready.
They're getting ready.
Okay.
But the rice is, I got to, you know what? I didn't look it up. I was going to look at it. I'm still very interested on how they harvest that rice. Because it's a lot.
They don't, the field is not wet when they harvest. I wouldn't think they'd be able to get any type of machinery down it.
No, I wouldn't think so because it would be all muddy. But it's a very interesting crop. I will say that. And we saw that in Louisiana, I believe.
We did.
When we were going through.
And down by Houston.
Down
by that
Houston.
area.
Yep. It's I don't know. I had to do a little G2 work, as they used to say.
G2.
There's some
sounds
G2
like
checking.
a future podcast to me.
And I got to tell just a quick story. So I worked in IT, and I had worked for and I was young, and I had worked for a man who clearly had been in the military. I was not in the military. He had been in the military, and my first meeting I had with him, he gave me an assignment and told me to go do some G2 on it. And I shook my head and said,
You
okay,
probably
yeah, I'm good.
Didn't know what the
I
heck
left the
that
office
was.
and was asking all the people I knew, what in the heck is a G2? And it turns out it's a government level. And basically he was telling me to go do some investigating, do some G2 work.
Never knew that.
And I think a G2 was a low level, I believe is a low level military person who, and he was telling me to go research stuff and find stuff out. But I just remembered, I'm like, oh, I didn't flinch. I did good.
You did good.
Oh, yeah, I'll go G2. What the heck are you talking about?
Sure enough.
Anyway,
I'll go do that.
All these years later, we still say it.
We do. We use that all the time, but I really didn't know where it came from.
Yeah, that was, I believe it's a government 2 level, low level person. I'm sure there's military folks out there that know more than I do on that, but that was my take on it.
Well, that's fun.
It is fun.
To us, it means we're going to go do our research.
We're going to go research. So that's what we did.
It's paid off all these years.
It has.
Really has.
Very good. What else you got?
All righty. Let's see what's on here. Our garden in a minute grid system that we ordered and installed before we left worked like a dream.
It did.
So nice. We came home and I can't believe the growth on the onions. We have potatoes that have sprung up. I have lettuce, Swiss chard. I have a lot of Swiss chard. There's a few beets out there. Probably get a little bit late in the year for beets, but that's okay. That's fine. I went ahead because I do have some extra packages of beets that I've had around for quite a while, and I planted out a whole pack of golden beets. I put it all over the kitchen garden.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some birds in there today, but that's okay. We're going to see if these will come through for us. Really, beets like it colder, then it's going to be here for a while. They're really good to plant in the fall and grow through the winter, but we're going to give them a go.
Okay.
And see how it's a golden beet. I got this from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, one of my favorite places to shop. And it says that they date back to before the 1820s.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that
That's crazy.
amazing?
Yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah. So there we go.
Yeah, the garden, I know you were excited because the first thing you did when we got home was go in the backyard and check all your garden stuff.
I did. I checked everything.
And it looked good. It's been growing. Everything's kind of leafing out and growing, and so it looks cool.
Our areas where we have spread the wildflower seeds, the pocket prairie areas, are blooming.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a wine cup, which is the most gorgeous color, had started to bloom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a red violet, like a deep red violet. It's just beautiful. If you have a chance to look those wildflower seeds up and grow them, they are stunning. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun too, just to kind of scatter them and see what comes up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We do have one other thing on What's New, Mary.
What?
We had our daughter watched the house for us while we were gone, and late at night,
yes,
she called us and said, "You're not going to believe what I saw in the back." So on our bird feeder, eating our bird feed, was a possum, a giant possum.
I'm in shock.
He was very cute.
I'm in shock.
She took a picture of it for us, and we were, I have my game camera out there. I didn't have it on while we were gone, of all the times, so I didn't obviously catch a picture of that. But our daughter did take a picture of it, and it was very happily. We had one of those with the seed that's like in a bulk, not loose, but where they go.
Right. It's meant to be for your winter birds. Yeah. It is. I don't know what they use to hold all the seeds together. But it's what is I'm looking for the word.
Yeah, I can't.
It's not loose seed.
Yeah, it's compacted. So she took a picture, and he was in there just eating away. And then there was a little bit left, and
we
then
need to noticed, put that on our blog.
Yeah, we do. The next morning, we realized it was all gone. So he must have come back and finished it off. So
he was sitting up there and he was reaching into the bird feeder. He didn't move while she was taking the photos.
No.
And his tail was wrapped around the garden fence.
Pretty cool. I mean, like I said, we've seen a lot of critters. We're going to have to, I mean, we've been documented here on the podcast, but we've had a lot of critters.
We've had some critters.
For suburban area, we definitely have critters. So,
did you think we'd have these critters?
I did not think we would have these. I figured, deer and like the normal. I never saw we'd have a roadrunner and all these other crazy things that we've seen. But it's pretty cool. And then it's lizard season, so we'll get our lizards back and our frogs and toads.
I think they are emerging. Yeah. Yes, so, I do.
Exciting times. Spring is here and everything is blooming.
Well, I know when we lived in Florida, the possums would actually curl up in the bottom of your trash cans. Mm-hmm. They loved to go down in there. The trash can was empty, and they would just curl up. And then you go to put your trash in there, and there would be a grouping of possums.
Just jump out.
I don't know how they got down in there, but
so we got another critter to put on our list.
Very cool. We do need to post that.
Yes,
that is pretty
absolutely
cute.
All right. What else do you have for us today?
That is my What's New list.
That's your What's New
for the week.
I know you have a nice topic for us as well.
I kind of do.
Okay.
I mean, it's related to this time of year. Here in the South, we're getting ready to start our lawn season.
We are.
And in the northern areas, I'm sure that you are planning ahead and getting all your equipment ready. I'm not exactly sure when your lawn season starts, but ours starts pretty early. I think Jeff was talking about doing the first mowing of the season.
Yeah, we're going to have to get it done here. It's looking like it's ready. Yeah.
It looks like it's ready, greening up. Mm-hmm. And so lawn care is big business in the United States. Isn't that amazing?
It is. It is.
It is. I found a statistic. Let's see if I could get that up here. Oh, where did I put it? Well, if I come to my statistic later, I'll relay it to you. I can't find it right off the top of my head. But we got a book from the Royal Horticultural Society over in Scotland, I believe is where they're based. And this book is called Horti Curious, Horti, and then Curious is the second part of the name. And it's just short little entries that have to do with something interesting in the garden. And they have like a 2-page entry about lawns. And it just sparked my interest. Like, you and I have grown up where lawns are ubiquitous, basically. I mean, we never lived where people didn't have a lawn.
No, we've always lived in suburban type areas with lawns, houses and lawns.
So lawns are kind of normal. But some of the entries made me question, how did we get a lawn? Where the heck did they come from? And so I delved back into time.
I wish I had a sound effect for that.
Back into time. Oh, that would have been great.
I know. I missed my chance.
Well, it just came off the top of my head there. Okay. But anyway, lawns go back, and this is absolutely just a skimming of all the information out there. There is such a wealth of good information that's so interesting. But today, I'm just going to bring you an overview of it. But lawns go back into antiquity, which, is not really that remarkable. And they weren't really what we think of today. A lot of times, they were simply spaces around the dwelling or the castle or the keep that were short. Maybe animals grazed across them, and basically you could view the surrounding area and make sure your enemies weren't creeping up on you.
Okay.
Or if you were a homesteader in the woods, you wanted to have that little bit of space for the same reason, for protection,
Right.
And so if you dive back into early historical documents, the Bible has a garden where people walked through and enjoyed the flora and the fauna. And also, Persian gardens, as early as 4000 BC, have descriptions of their lawns, which is an entirely huge subject that's very intricate, that would take me some time to study.
Interesting.
Might delve into that someday. But they did have lawns. They were more like pathways, from what I can understand, for you to enjoy the other aspects of their garden. And that's kind of how lawns came to be, as short pathways across which people could graze livestock. In England, they might call them the mead, MEAD, or the heath. And they would be a common place where a lot of people could gather their livestock and they would move through and graze. And so that's kind of how a wide range of the population could enjoy what we might think of as a lawn. But as times progressed, especially, let's say in medieval times, they began to have walled gardens. And so coming out of that time, they would build these variety of walled gardens that were for a purpose. And one of the purposes was, of course, to show your wealth or standing in the community, right? And so if you were an up-and-coming person, or you were modestly wealthy, you might have a situation, it's a walled situation, called an herber. Or maybe some people would say herber. You would have trees around the outside, and you would have a patch, a grassy patch, where you could walk and enjoy it. And really what these were made for is so someone could be sitting upstairs in a bedroom or on a balcony, and they could look down into this herber. And they were about an acre or less. An acre is pretty huge.
That's pretty big.
That's pretty big, right?
Yeah.
But they were the smallest of these gardens that were private, sort of gardens. And if you climbed a little bit higher on the ladder, you were going to have, it was called an orchard. But today we would think of an orchard as rows of fruit trees with low plantings under them, but not back then. An orchard was a walled, enclosed garden that was maybe 2 to 4 acres. And it did contain fruit trees and vines and flower borders and a wide variety of water features and maybe some garden art. But it included short, grassy, maybe plantings. And what these were for people to begin to practice games and some of the social events. And so you have your tennis courts, or you have badminton came from China. And we're talking like the 1400s to the 1700s. And you might have bowling, lawn bowling,
yeah.
And also bocce. I know, which is still practiced today. I always thought bocce was on a clay court, but I don't. They say it was on grass.
I don't know. I thought it was on like dirt or something.
I did too.
But I could be wrong.
Yeah. But what I read, they describe it as being originally played on grass.
Yeah.
And golf. You begin to see golf in Scotland. Now, golf really was incorporated into the largest of the gardens, which is a pleasure park. That's what they called it, a pleasure park. And that would be for nobility, probably. That would be the highest, wealthiest people. And sometimes the wealthiest people had all three of these gardens. But a pleasure park included birds and animals. Not that they would hunt them, but that they would just go out and enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
And they had ponds, they had moats, they had all kinds of things like that. And the one thing that all three of these gardens usually shared, which I think is so cute, is they had benches created in their gardens that were made, they were like packed earth, and they grew herbs like we would think of today, where you could sit down. Mm-hmm. And of course, the ladies don't want to crush their dresses against the grass and so forth. So they would have some kind of protection for the ladies' skirts. And then the rest of it would be covered with turf.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
I know. Isn't that a cute idea?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, your gardens kept going through the years. And in the 1600s, Louis XIII brings what he describes as tapis verte to Versailles. And then I think it's Louis XIV and had André Lenort to create the Great Lawn, or it's also called the Royal Walk at Versailles. And that's where people's imaginations began to go, a lawn.
Yeah.
You know, they could see these examples. There are other examples, but that's the one that most stood out. So in the 1700s, it, of course, traveled, and it became an essential element to English and French gardens. But here's the thing. Part of the reason why it was reserved for the wealthy, unless you had sheep to graze it, which I think some people did employ flocks of sheep to come through and graze, unless you did that, you had to have flocks of people with a scythe walking through. And so, of course, it wasn't even. Mm-hmm. You tried your best to get a nice, smooth, even cut, but it's not going to be perfectly even. So maybe sometimes as many as 19 or 20 people would pass through and scythe, you know, for a day. Yeah. And that was work. That's what they did.
That's true. You don't think about that. Yeah, somebody had to kind of, mow it, but somebody had to cut it or else it would just go crazy. Yeah, interesting.
And here's another point. Lawns are one of the greatest consumers of water that we have. Mm-hmm. How did it get watered?
Oh, yeah. That is a good question.
By hand.
Oh, boy.
It got watered with buckets of water by hand. Yes.
Yeah, so you had to be wealthy to have a lawn.
You had to be wealthy. And just, oh my goodness gracious. And you know, most people, they probably what hindered them from having a great big lawn is that they needed the area to grow their food. And they also had to grow fruit for others too, you know. So that probably limited most of the regulars from having an expansive lawn. But anyways, in the 1700s, of course, all the lawn games became more widely popular as news traveled. You know, the British, they colonized South Africa. They went to Australia and to India. Mm-hmm. And so everywhere that they went, they would bring their concept of the lawn and the games with them. And so you begin to see cricket, you know. You begin to see the soccer pitches and things like that are traveling around the world associated with the lawns, which, wow.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So our first introduction that in my research popped up to a lawn was when Thomas Jefferson brought it to Monticello in Virginia in 1806. So he established the lawn in America as a societal, what do you want to say? They wanted it, something that they wanted. And so as I look at my notes here, so why do we like the lawn? Well, one thing I wanted to talk about real quick before we get into current day, I wanted to talk about why they are prevalent for us. And
like how they started and
so
where'd they come from?
Yes.
In current times. Yeah.
In Gloucestershire, England, there was a gentleman by the name of Edwin Baird Budding. And he got the first patent for a type of lawnmower. I believe it was gear-driven.
Wow.
And I think it cut a 19-inch path in the grass. And so they used to have these carpet cutting machines to make the carpet all the same height in the mills. And so he designed his patent for the lawnmower off of that. And he was a great inventor.
Yeah.
He had a lot of inventions, and this was one of them. And he and his other gentlemen recognized that they could gain more if they let people license the workings of the lawnmower, and they got royalty off of it. And of course, that did work out to be very popular for them. But the interesting part is that because he developed this way of mechanically cutting the lawn, he was instrumental in forming the distinct boundaries that we have today for our games. Like a tennis court is what size, or a cricket pitch is what size, and because it was something that could be done in place of all the people that had to go out inside.
Right. Wow.
The problem was some of the illustrations show children pushing this lawnmower, but it was heavy and it was not very easily done.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
So pretty soon, another gentleman came along to have one person pushing the back and one person had like a... It was attached to the handle, sort of, and he could pull from the front.
Wow.
So, and then people came along and they would put a mule or something like that on the front. And they would do it that way. And so that began to be a little bit, onerous. And people began to have other ideas, other ways of doing it. So the first United States patent for a lawnmower was granted to Amira Hills January the 12th of 1868.
Wow, I had no idea that old.
Yes, and it was for a like a rotary. Remember those rotary lawnmowers that we all pushed?
Yes.
The push ones.
Those were hard to push, and they weren't even heavy. I can't imagine the steel, whatever the first guy did. That's got to be crazy.
Gears on either side.
Oh, and it had to be huge and heavy metal, and
you could raise it or lower it. He did have that feature in his mower, but it wasn't. The cutting mechanism probably was derived from how they cut the carpets. I'm not exactly sure what that was. Huh. But now we have the rotary blades coming into play and began to be more available. Kids could get out and do it. You could ask your son to do it, right? Anyways, Amira Hills founded the Archimedean Lawnmower Company in 1871. But we're talking about the U.S. here.
Right.
Of course, 1868 is not that long after Thomas Jefferson brought the lawn to America, And so in that short span of time, lawns, exploded, or lawns grew to be more common.
And then technology obviously was growing with it.
And technology was definitely growing with it. Now, in the United States, the first gas-powered lawnmower was manufactured in 1914. It was in Lansing, Michigan by Ransom E. Olds. And it was self-propelled, riding lawn tractor in 1922, and the name of it was the Triplex.
Oh, gosh.
So I know.
Wow.
So all of these things were 1914, 1922, and the first driving mower did have animals. So an animal would be pulling. I think you would be on the lawnmower. You would be riding behind, and that would technically be the first riding lawnmower. And that would have been around 1900, 1902. And it was actually in, can I find that real quick?
Well, interesting. So Ransom Olds was actually he is the inventor of the Oldsmobile. He started the Oldsmobile Auto Company.
Okay.
He was an automotive executive.
Well, I did not know that, but that's super interesting.
Yes.
That might be also another thing, another little tidbit to follow up on.
Yeah.
Okay. So
makes sense, right?
Yeah. The founder of the Oldsmobile, right?
Right.
So it was a chain-driven mower. Cool.
Okay.
Ride behind animals pulled the large machines. First riding mowers. I thought that was pretty interesting because we're coming into the current era now. And what was important to people as they came home from World War II, we had a boom in housing, and we built suburbs came into play during that time. And one of the main design elements of these little suburban enclaves was to have a lawn. So each person could have their own little bit of prairie. And it was actually written into the description of the home deed or home title or whatever like that. And the other feature that was very important is a lawn and 2 trees were super cheap for the builders to put in. And so they did go down that route. And the theory behind it was that the GIs had grown up in a rural setting, and it would provide them with a small taste of their experiences as a child, But of course, what did sort of happen is that we began to have norms about how your lawn should look and what size your grass should be, what you should do during what time of year. It sort of evolved into a HOA type situation.
I was going to say, it sounds like an HOA to me.
It kind of does, right? And that's probably one of the building blocks that did occur to have an HOA.
Right, yeah.
And so you could see how the lawnmower kind of what do I want to say? They existed prior to this growth of the quote unquote American dream, right? For the serviceman.
That's interesting, very interesting,
home.
Yeah.
And,
Well, it is interesting because you talk about the 2 trees, and I know new homes now, they require
Mm-hmm.
The builder to have a lawn, obviously, and then some number of trees. I think
Yes.
most HOAs do.
Yes, they do.
Which is it's kind of funny when you said that because.
But interestingly enough, not all have to have a lawn in the backyard.
Oh.
Well, we've encountered this before. You could purchase a home where the front is landscaped, but the backyard is dirt.
Yeah.
Which I find
it's all about looks.
Yeah, it's all about looks, right?
And you want to make sure that the community looks the right way, which is I don't want to get down the HOA path, but that's true. But the lawns, that is interesting on the lawns, and I know that as the U.S. roads expanded and suburban areas expanded, and it turned into suburbia was a house with a lawn.
That's right,
and a backyard.
And that is the description that continues to follow.
It is, yeah. Interesting.
Is. But, going back into the 1400s to the 1700s and having their patch of lawn where they did their games, one of the things that's very interesting is that they sort of included what we would describe as a pocket prairie.
Oh.
They weren't all like a monoculture of grass. They had a area of grass, but they also had swaths of wildflowers and things that they collected in nature around where they lived, which I'm very, I think that's very progressive.
That is very nice. I like it. We like our pocket.
We love our pocket prairie, and it's still going strong.
It is.
The wine
FYI.
cup is part of that pocket prairie. That's right. So, of course, we live here in Central Texas, and I did a smattering of research on our area. I think it could apply. You could take the concepts and relate them to your area. But in our area, the grasses that are quite common and kind of applicable to our area is St. Augustine. St. Augustine is going to be a shade grass and a heavy water user. So you want to think about where that might be best. Zoysia. Now, if you look to the zoysia grass, it is a wide light requirement and also pretty good on the water. I think it's supposed to be very water.
I think it is supposed to be good.
Yeah, a zoysia grass. Bermuda is what we have.
Right.
Bermuda grass loves the sunshine. The one thing about Bermuda grass is that it can go through a drought and it might be stressed out, but the thing will not die. No. It will not. It's very good.
Yeah.
Pretty hardy. I'm pretty sure we have some form of a hybrid that's not quite as aggressive as the other Bermudas, but I'm okay with our lawn. I like it.
Good.
Do you like our lawn?
I do like our lawn, yeah.
It's pretty easy to walk around in.
It is easy to walk around. It's like you said, with the sun and heat we get here, it does really well. So.
It does. And sometimes we do have water restrictions, so I'm kind of glad we have Bermuda. Buffalo grass. This is so interesting. Buffalo grass is the only native lawn grass that we have in North America. The other grasses have come from Europe. They've come from
that's interesting.
Bermuda, I think, came from Japan. And zoysia is also an import. Bermuda is the only one that will tolerate a lot of walking. So I do think they use a lot of forms of this. I think they use TIF on golf greens and things like that because you can mow it really short. It has good walking on capabilities. So, yeah.
Nice.
But if you want a grass that you could scatter out there and you don't really need to maintain it, I mean, truly, maybe not even mow it, it's buffalo grass.
Really?
It might go dormant during the hottest parts of the year, but it will stay
Now,
viable.
have you seen any buffalo grass in here? I wouldn't know what it looked
I
like.
am not. I have not seen a buffalo grass lawn. I'm pretty sure we have seen buffalo grass when we go to the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center and walk through.
Yeah.
And some of our native offerings, but that's more like in a prairie.
Yeah. Interesting
situation than it is. I'll have to look
like
an image up and double check on that.
Nice.
Now, if you want your grass to be really healthy, you want to train those roots to reach down into the soil as deep as you can. And what that means is you want to have less frequent but deeper watering. You want the water to penetrate maybe 2 inches into the soil before it stops watering for that period of time. And that's going to cut down on any diseases that you might encounter. It's going to make sure that you don't overuse any type of fertilization or anything, And so that's what you want to do there. And you want to mow to the right height.
Mm-hmm.
So it's traditionally recommended, I think, that as the weather heats up, you raise your mower and let the blades get longer.
A little bit longer, yeah.
So they'll shade out the roots on the bottom. And we like to use a mulching mower that's going to let the leaves fall back and help fertilize the grass. Return that energy.
We do.
To the grass.
Another thing on the watering, what you can do is if you have it like an automatic system, you can put something out, when you're watering on top of the grass, and you can measure, how much it's watered, if it's the 2 inches or 1 inch, and it'll collect the water in that, measuring cup or whatever you put out there. So you'll know so you can adjust the times on your sprinkler and your irrigation system.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
It's really good to test your system too periodically, so you could keep up on that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And just to kind of, we have ours, it runs early because you don't want to do it in the middle of the day where it dissipates here in Texas,
right?
But you don't want it in the middle of the night either,
right? If the nights are below 70 degrees, you don't want the lawn to stay wet all night. If it is 70 degrees and above all through the night, you can let your lawn have nighttime watering in order that the water doesn't evaporate.
Yeah. And I have ours set for, close to sunrise-ish time period.
I think that's a good system.
Yeah, it works. It works good. And then we make sure we test it before, when the spring comes. We've tested ours already. We
I know.
Sat out in the back and sat in the front, followed it around as it went.
Followed it around.
And make sure that it's working correctly.
Yeah.
So, that's good tips.
I'm glad you did that pre-planning.
Yep.
Oh, no. It's good to be on.
It is, because if it's going in the middle of, when I'm not awake.
I know.
And one of them's busted, that's not good.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
No, not at all.
And we haven't had that happen. Thankfully, you've been pretty proactive in that.
We haven't had it happen. Yeah. I have put concrete covers you can put around them. So, if we're mowing or something, make sure if anything happens, if we happen to go that low, which we don't, but if you did, it would hit the concrete, not the top of the sprinkler head.
How did you run across those concrete? How did you find them?
I found those online. They're green. They form them. They're green concrete.
Donut or
they're like a donut. They're like a donut, yeah. And they're nice. They look good.
They do look good. Yes.
Out there, and they definitely protect though. So when the grandkids come over, if they're running, they're not going to kick this.
Yes,
our sprinklers go down low, but at least it does protect, or for us when we're doing stuff in the yard.
Yeah.
Rolling a wheelbarrow or something around.
When you're doing things in the yard, sometimes the soil around the sprinkler head can get depressed down in there, and then your sprinkler head is exposed.
It is. And broken sprinkler is not It's not
no
the
fun.
funnest, not the funnest thing in the world to fix. So we've been very lucky. We've done well and have not really had to do any of that.
I know. You've been real good. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, Mary.
Well, one of the things I did is I looked on John Dromgoole's website, and he is the originator of the Natural Garden down in South Austin. One of my favorite places. Anyways, I did lawn care. And so he recommends that fertilization happen at least twice a year. For our area, late April is a good time, or after you've mown twice.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So he likes you to do that. And then again in the fall, maybe he recommends like September, early October.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do more than that, but you don't have to. I mean, that's his like baseline.
Right.
Really, he recommends an organic, slow release fertilizer that is higher in nitrogen. And if you get your slow release fertilizer where the organisms manage the nitrogen, you won't be burning your lawn, which is very important. He does have a recommendation of a product, and it's a Sustain 824. And so I'm not familiar with that product. I just realized as I was reading through, I guess I've read this a lot of times, but I just never computed this product. But anyways, so I did get some information that I'm planning to look up. Generally, I like to go with Microlife, but our problem is if I spread it in the yard, the dogs love to eat it.
They
and
do.
It won't hurt them. It's just
Yeah.
not helping the grass, But anyways, so I thought I'd give this a look-see. And we do have someone that comes out and does spray our yard for us as well, that we've talked about in the past.
Yeah, we have.
So generally, you just don't really use a weed and feed product. People are really beginning to say, back up, think about what you're doing, because one of the things that you are doing is killing the microbiology in your soil, and you don't want to do that. We want to build that up. And so don't use a weed and feed. If you have to, look for alternative weed prevention. Corn gluten meal is, if you put it on at the right time, is a really good weed preventer. Sadly, we did try corn gluten meal one year.
We did.
Maybe we chose the wrong time of year, or maybe there was something else we did, but it had a distinctive smell to it.
Yeah, it did.
And so I'm going to have to go back and revisit that product and look at it again, because I do think it does feed the biology in the soil, So one of the things that happened to us was there was a year when I decided to take down a lot of raised beds that we had in the garden. We had built some raised beds, but we had used lumber that would not be good to eat the vegetables out of.
Yep.
And so we didn't know what to do with all the material, all of the planting material that we had taken out of there. And I do think it was in the warmer part of the year. So we were in the low watering time. It was hot outside. What we actually decided to do is spread that all over the backyard. And we just spread it out in an even layer and let the, I think we could only water once a week or something like that. And we let the watering system kind of put it into the ground.
We did.
And it helped our grass so much. I was actually shocked by it. We weren't sure about it, but it did help.
It did help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So one of the things that is recommended is like a 1/2 inch of compost, and you want to look for good compost. You want to be careful about what you buy, but a 1/2 inch of dressing that. But it says right in here, do not top dress when temperatures are above 85 to 90 degrees.
Oh my gosh.
But we did that. Anyways, to spread that across your yard every spring. And of course, that's going to give your microbiology a lot of food. And research your compost. Make sure it's a good quality compost. And also compost tea. You can water every week if you want to with a good quality compost tea, and that's going to help your lawn hold on to the water it does get, increase the air circulation in your soil, increase your soil health, and let your lawn gather nutrition from all the minerals that are already available in your soil. And it's going to have a lot of, if you get a good quality compost and you have good quality compost tea, you're going to get those beneficial nematodes that we talked about that are so important. Yes. All right. So you want to just follow those as the temperature heats up, raise your mower height. Follow through with all those suggestions, and I do hope that your lawns will be lush and green. I think our lawn has improved through the years because we really have tried to do these practices.
It was a mess there for a year or two.
Yes. Now, the front yard does not get as heavy traffic, so it doesn't have dogs and people. We're out there playing games. I'm rolling wheelbarrows all over the place, right? So the front lawn is a taller stand of grass. It is better, not as short. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. I think it has a deeper root system, probably.
Yeah, it's not walked on. It's not trampled on by dogs. You're right. I mean,
and the dogs don't go out in the front yard. So every single year I have put down microlife pellets on the lawn. But we'll have to see this year.
No, I don't think I'll do that. It looks good so far. The backyard looks good so far too.
The backyard is holding its own.
We're getting there. We are getting there.
It's holding its own.
Yeah, very good.
Well, using some of these products, it's really important because your nitrogen doesn't get washed away into the wastewater system. That's one of the things that, if you spend your money on an organic fertilizer, you want to make sure that you get the full benefit of that.
Oh, money, absolutely.
Right? So that's what I have to say about lawns.
Well, that's awesome. That was a really cool, interesting history of lawns that I did not know about.
Oh, I didn't even talk about how to put the designs, but that might be for a different day.
All right.
Because I don't really understand that process either.
We'll come back to you on that one.
And I don't think that's something we're going to go out and do.
No. That's really cool, though. Thanks for giving us that history. It's really interesting.
It is interesting, yeah.
Goes back so far and how we do it today. Really cool. Cool stuff.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Welcome.
I was wondering if you had a Jeffy's Corner.
I do. I have a little something. I'd like to play a little game I like to call Stump the Birdy.
Ooh, it's time for Stump the
Birdy game. So I got some questions for you.
Oh, boy.
And I am pretty confident you're going to get them all, but you know, that's...
You always have one or two in there that I have no clue about.
Well, you know what? We're gonna give it a shot. So here's your first question, Mary. What does the P on NPK fertilizer stand for? Potassium, phosphorus, photosynthesis, or pre-packed?
Phosphorus.
Correct, Mary. Yay! Way to go. See, I told you. So phosphorus, that's usually on the labeling found on fertilizer.
That's correct.
And it's usually in that order, NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and K is for potassium.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, very cool.
Yes.
Now, Mary.
Now.
Do seeds ever expire?
Well, that's a tricky question.
Yeah.
That's a tricky question. I do think that seeds lose their germination ability sometimes if they're not kept well.
Okay, that was your thing. Okay,
but I think you're going to tell us something interesting, and I don't want to walk on it.
No, I'm going to say they do not expire.
Ooh, neat.
If they're stored properly, they can last for many years. And so I know that this is actually an interesting thing that I want to look. There's actually seed banks around the world to preserve plant species by storing their seeds. And I've heard that. So there are seed banks where old seeds are stored and new as well. So they actually don't expire as long as you take care of them and store them.
I think that there have been some archaeological digs that have found seeds from prior civilizations.
I believe so. And I think those are all I think they're in these different banks around the world, which is very interesting.
It is so interesting.
Yeah. All right, another one for you. Which of the following is not a winter? This one is not a winter vegetable. A tomato, Brussels sprout, a kale, or carrots. Not a winter vegetable.
Well, I am going to say tomato.
You got it right.
I know. It's in the Solanaceae family. But here in Texas, it's a shoulder season vegetable or a fruit. It's actually a fruit. They don't do super well when temperatures go above, say, 95.
Okay. You got it right.
Oh.
You didn't miss it. Okay.
Well, Solanaceae.
How about this one? Which of the following increases germination rates for spring planting? Ready? Cold stratification, heat stratification, scarification, inoculation, or all of the above? Which ones?
For spring. Well,
increased germination rates.
I would say scarification.
It is all of the above.
Really?
Cold, heat, scarification, which I don't know what it is.
That's where you would take
it. Sneak up on it. You sneak up on it and scare it. Is it called scarification?
Possibly.
That's
I think
great.
They might tumble it in sand or use sandpaper to rough it up.
That was funny. All right.
Oh my goodness! And heat. See, the heat threw me off.
Yeah,
the heat
trick question.
Did throw me off there. All of the above.
Now I know you know this one. Which of the following would be considered a good cover crop?
Ooh, I love cover crops.
Now, is it alfalfa or my favorite, the hairy vetch, rye, or all of the above?
I'm going to say all of the above.
It is all of the above. Yeah. Even the hairy wretch, which I don't like.
The hairy vetch.
Oh, wretch.
A leguminous crop that if it has the rhizobacteria on it, rhizobium bacteria on it will fix nitrogen in the soil. That's why it is a really good cover crop.
Okay.
Yes.
I have one more for you.
Hairy vetch.
Yeah, hairy. I called it hairy fetch. Hairy vetch. I have one more for you.
Okay. Stump the Birdy.
I think this one is going to absolutely, positively stump you because you don't know anything about this.
Ooh.
True or false?
Oh, boy.
Having a lot of worms in your soil is an indication of poor soil health. Is that poor soil health if you have a lot of worms? True or false?
That's a false
statement. What it says, they are the unsung heroes of soil health. They help increase the amount of water and air that gets into the soil. They help break down organic matter. And if you got a lot of worms in there, you're doing good. And I know you like your worms. So.
Well, there was a fairy famous person from our history that wrote extensively about earthworms. Can you guess who that is? Somebody that was controversial, somebody that formulated his theories as he traveled the world on a ship and collected specimens.
Oh, man. Audubon.
Close.
Okay.
Close to Audubon. I mean, you're in the right era.
I don't know.
Think.
I don't know.
Very highly controversial subject matter about evolution.
I don't know. The theory of evolution?
Yeah, the theory of evolution. He wrote that. It's Chucky. Old Chucky. Charles Darwin.
Darwin.
Yay!
Oh my gosh, my brain just went dead. You know, I know how people you know what? Now I know, like, when I'm watching, like, if there's a game show on and you go, what an idiot. Why didn't you answer? Because you know you freeze. Even though you know the answer. I was frozen. I froze right up. No, you're good. You answered, Mary, you answered all, you're correct, and you now move on to the next. No, that was it. That's all I had. I just wanted to throw some questions.
I love your...
You did well. I think you missed one.
Wide and diverse, interesting subject matter.
Thank you. I'm trying to stump you. I'm going to get there.
Yeah, the heat. I'm interested in why that is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you got something to look at now.
Okay. Well, you do use heating mats to sprout some seeds. That is true.
Okay.
If I think about it.
And see?
Yeah.
What else you got?
Oh, boy. What are we going to get into this upcoming week?
I don't know. Maybe we'll see another critter. Could there be another critter in our future? I did see this morning. I told you I saw something furry in our neighbor's.
You did?
He was on our neighbor's porch, and we don't really have big trees, so generally we don't see squirrels here.
No, I don't think there's a food source for them yet.
So I don't know what that was. I saw it on his porch, not on my porch.
Dark?
It was squirrel looking, but it wasn't a squirrel. So it was furry and ran off. But yeah, so we'll see. I got the camera loaded. Maybe we'll catch something.
Maybe we will.
Yeah. So
this is crazy.
That's something we might have next. Who knows? You never know.
You never know.
Absolutely.
We did actually see a lesser goldfinch in the garden.
We did.
A little flock of them, several of them, came in. And what I was so interested, they were out there on now I'm drawing a blank.
See, I told you.
Yes, it's our little Anacacho orchid tree.
Okay. And then I know you took a picture of them, and then you brought the picture in to show me, and we focused in on them, and we have a little handy pull-out, laminated birds of Central Texas or birds of Texas type of thing that we used, and then we checked that out and used that to identify them. But we absolutely appreciate you guys being with us here at the podcast, and we will be with you next week. And like I said, maybe we'll have a critter or two for you. You never know here. But until then, we appreciate you guys, and hope to see you guys all next week here at the same place, same time here at Mary Bird's Backyard Garden. Bye.